We're under some pretty strict rules when you talk about the HIPAA compliance.
Yes.
If we have a breach, there is a very specific set of rules that includes very, very hefty fines for this entity.
I understand.
And we are securing this information. Who would be responsible if a breach happened on that? Because we could be talking anywhere from tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines if patient information is released.
So any service provider you choose should be signing what's called a business associates agreement with you, and that extends your liability to us. So if the breach is our responsibility, one of my employees or one of my systems actually caused a breach in your data, then that extends to my company and our insurance. If the breach is your responsibility, then it's your responsibility financially as well. So you do extend a portion of that liability to your IT provider, and that's pretty well understood anytime you're working with any kind of medical provider.
Where is that line drawn then in the same?
Well, so for instance, if one of your employees causes a breach in data on the machine by emailing something out and not following policy, then that's on your side of the line. If one of my employees prints out a sensitive document and accidentally leaves it somewhere and that data is breached, then that's on my side of the line. Or if we were to accidentally make publicly available some data on one of your systems, and that's on my side of the line. As far as a hardware failure or something like that, that is a pretty thin gray area there. Where do we look to the manufacturer or something like that? And I think you're partially maybe asking some legal questions that I may not be qualified to answer in that regard. But as far as technology goes, I mean, we do have some pretty clean standards on how we help you meet that compliance, and then how we secure your devices to help you meet that compliance going forward.
Now, you talked about the duplications of the servers, and of course, the one we have, I think, is supposed to be mirrored right now, but if we run into a problem with that, that is something that you can help us with, but at the same time, you're telling us that this information is going to be secured on another server somewhere in the United States, and it would be all encrypted where there wouldn't be a problem with any of that, and then your virtual rebuild, by the time we fix the problem on this end,
Sure.
We would be back up, or at least have access to the information we need for
Sure.
billing patient records, because we are slowly migrating, moving towards what most medical fields have to do, where our information will have to become digital.
Sure.
Where we can, if you were involved in something somewhere else, they could access those records to the healthcare facility.
Sure.
And facilitate the care for you. So are all these things going to be available as we move forward on this to be able to digitize our services and all that?
Yeah, so as far as decision, you go to electronic medical records, that's not an issue for us. We've assisted other facilities with that. And then maybe setting some policies in place for how you will maintain that old on-site data. As far as the transition of data from an on-site medical records to an online or EMR system, usually the provider of that software is going to assist you with that actual migration. But as far as facilitating that connection and the computers and whatever needs to be done on site, we would handle that portion of it for you. Going back to it sounded like you had a wireless system between buildings, that's how one of your extra buildings is connected. We can look into maybe using some public safety frequencies to make that transmission happen. Those are usually a lower bandwidth capability, meaning the speed of the connection is not as fast. So we would most likely replace what you have with like a 60 gigahertz link that's encrypted. And
You're talking like a product like NanoBeam?
We can do a NanoBeam, that's 5 gigahertz. It's a more common frequency, so we would like to put in something, as long as the buildings are within certain distance limitations and have good line of sights, we would probably switch to a 60 gigahertz system for you, because we can do 1 gigabit per second in bandwidth, meaning line speed essentially, to that other building. And 60 gigahertz is not common, not a lot of people use it or know how to configure it. So the likelihood of you having interference is going to be very slim, and also the likelihood of a consumer-based device accessing that is very, very slim. Whereas a Nano...
Basically, it goes to signal between two places, isn't it? We have a clean line of sight between them.
Sure. It's we set up it's a wireless point-to-point, and there are different steps of authentication needed for that point-to-point, and then we take it a step further and we do what's called a MAC authentication. So each device, every internet connected or network connected device has a unique MAC address. So what we say is, in addition to the password being correct, this device should only connect to the MAC address of that one, and this one should only connect to the MAC address of that one. So if someone were to intercept the signal with a third device that was capable of seeing that signal, they would have no approvals whatsoever to access that network.
Essentially, they couldn't breach it.
Exactly.
And you'd also be willing to work with our billing vendor that we have, when they do a PCR report electronically, it uploads and it goes on that current signal to our server now.
Okay.
If we run into some problems or something along with our billing software, because what we want to work towards is dropping away from the duplication of paper, entering something, and the girls having to re-enter it again. We should be getting something together where when this information goes in originally into the PCR report, that it is populated into the billing software.
Sure.
And that saves a lot of productive time.
Of course.
For us. Is that something that you'd be able to work with us on?
Of course. So you're going to have some scenarios that are a matter of administration and some scenarios that are a matter of technology. We're going to help you in all the matters where you need us to help integrate those systems, but you're going to have to tell us, why are we going to this? You know, what does this do for us so that we can connect all the dots and make it work on your systems, or let you know if you need something new. What I'm getting at is that we will work with you to make that happen, but there's going to be some mutual responsibilities there. Because while we know computers and we know technology, we're not experts in ambulance services or medical records for ambulance services. So we need to know, if you're going to a new system, why are you going to the new system? What didn't you like about the old system? And we need a point of contact, and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of times your vendors like that are going to have what they call a technical point of contact. So usually we'll request that you contact the vendor, list us as your technical point of contact, and that will let us talk to them in terms of technical issues, but it doesn't let us make billing changes or change your contractual agreements and that sort of thing. So you can kind of give us the power to speak to your vendors without giving one of my technicians the power to cancel your subscription with them or something,
Well, our goal is to step forward, again, and get away from certain things and start pulling all this stuff together where it's kind of, when it's entered once,
Sure.
that's what we need.
Yeah.
Instead of making duplication of the same process by the time it hits the office.
Yeah, and we try to be conscious of the fact that you may not, in some cases, you may not know where you can increase that efficiency in technology. So if myself or my technicians observe that you guys are doing 10 steps where you could be doing 2, we're gonna let you know that. And sometimes you can consolidate those steps and increase efficiency without a lot of additional cost, and in the long run, it's gonna save you time because it's saving you man hours and you're getting to use your time for other things. So if we observe a lack of efficiency, we'll make that recommendation, and if you have some ideas for it, we can see how we can make it happen as well.
And some of that would have to, I guess I'm asking the question, that would happen outside of what the monthly fee is?
No, because we're, in addition to just supporting your devices, we are providing IT consultation to you. So if you just, hey, I need to make this work, and you need to ask questions, that's what we're here for as well. So a trouble ticket doesn't need to be, my screen is broken. It can be, we need to go from point A to point B, and we need to know how. All of that's covered, yes. And then we're gonna do our best. If it's something we don't have firsthand knowledge of, then we're gonna put in the time and resources to gain that knowledge and then make a professional recommendation to you based on what you've requested of us. So, what we wanna convey is that you truly, although we're not gonna be sitting here at the desk, you truly treat us as a full-time resource. So when a question arises, when a problem comes up, or a new system needs to be developed or integrated, we're here for you to ask those questions too. So we don't want anyone to feel abandoned or like they have to go out on their own and search Google. We want to help you get there as fast and efficiently as possible.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anyone else have any?
I just had a quick one.
Yes.
Well, it's not that quick, but I think the big concern, the big item, I think for the county overall, going in the past and going forward is knowing how big we are and having an appropriate sized solution for the problems that we face.
Sure.
I think sometimes we don't take seriously enough how big we are and the importance of what we do, and I think other times we throw way too many resources at something that really isn't that big of a deal.
Sure.
And so I think the target here is going to have to be, maybe we don't know how big we are, and maybe we don't know yet exactly what we need to be, and especially with IT-related issues, they're changing so fast, the landscape is changing so quickly.
Sure.
It's always kind of hard to know where you are.
Sure.
So maybe the key would be to have something that's gonna be able to grow with the size of the yard now into, something where we need to be. Because you're gonna hear some presentations today that I think are kind of where we want to be aspirationally, and some presentations that may be not addressing all the needs that we really have right now.
Sure.
So how would you seeing where we are now and helping us see that landscape and growing with us, bring us where we need to go?
So I'll answer that in kind of an absurd way. I'll say that myself, my employees, we aren't sheep. Like, we don't go where you tell us and do what you say just because you think that's what you need. If we recognize that the cost or something is what you're requesting is going to exceed what you really need, we're gonna make that recommendation for you. So if you come in and say, hey, I need to accomplish this, and I heard that it costs $15,000 and that this is the system we need to buy. If we tell you based on the amount of people accessing that system or that server, you really only need to spend $5,000, or we might say, well, actually, what you're looking at is not quite going to do the job, and it's gonna be more costly than you expect. We're gonna make our best recommendations to you in any given scenario. So we're not just taking in your tickets and saying, well, let's just do what this person is saying. If we see an issue or we need to advise differently, if you say, hey, our wireless link has died, we just need to replace it, we're not gonna say, okay, we'll just come replace that one exactly as it is. We're gonna say, okay, now it's time to add our 60 gigahertz link in, secure that, and give you better bandwidth to your building. So we can grow as you grow, and we'll make recommendations for you based on your requests. I don't know if that thoroughly answers your question.
No, I think it really does. I think sometimes it's so easy to say, well, it worked that way for 30 years, or, a lot of what we were doing 30 years ago wasn't good enough. And
Sure.
a lot of what we did 10 years ago wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I think we've taken some steps to fix that, but there's still a lot of steps that need to go. So
Sure.
I think that partnership of fixing what we have while also having a look to the future is important.
I think, I will say that my correspondence is probably thorough to a fault. So if I see an issue or a blatant compliance or security violation or something like that, I'm gonna let you know in the plainest way possible, which is, this is a major issue and you see the fix, and here's what it's gonna take to fix it. And if you make a request of me or my team, and I feel like it doesn't really fit what your overall goal is, we'll assume that maybe there needs to be a better understanding. We'll have a discussion about it, make sure we understand what you're asking for, and that you understand what you need. And sometimes we're not always gonna see eye to eye. We're gonna be a contractor, but we are gonna work with the county's best interest in mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not to make our job easier or not to make us more money, we're gonna work with what makes you guys more efficient and what fits your budget and what fits your plans for expansion and your plans for improvement, so.
Yeah, I think as a resident of Union County yourself, it would be important to you that sometimes our number one priority has to be service at all times. And from my perspective, with my role here, is cost effectiveness has to be number two.
Sure.
Other people have a different view of that. But sometimes the way to be most responsible for the people is to spend less money. And sometimes being most responsible for the people might actually be spending a little more money. Because it's that balance of providing the service, at the most efficient way possible. But you have to at least provide that level of service that we need to.
I understand, yes.
Thanks.
Anytime.
Oh, Josh, thanks very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.